Tom Craig.
Good evening, everyone.
Has joined the meeting.
I would like to begin by welcoming everyone to this committee. We are pleased that so many of you can join us for these stakeholder sessions, and we look forward to working with you over the coming months. I'd like to start by, I don't know if this is going to be easy, but if we could have everyone introduce themselves, I think that would be a good introduction so we can just all kind of get to know each other quickly. We have a few members of the Department of Planning here. So maybe we could start with planning and then kind of work our way around the other committee members. We also have representatives from county government, other county departments here as well. So if we could all kind of introduce ourselves. I'm Joe, and I will be leading this committee. And my colleague, Lori Hay, will also be helping us out here. So if we could just, I don't know, Lori, if you want to introduce yourself now.
Good evening. I'm Lori Hay. I'm the Eastern Sector Coordinator, and I'm working closely with Joe in this Eastern Sector project.
I'm Amy Mante. I'm the Division Chief for Community Planning.
I'm Rick Johnson. I'm with the Department of Economic and Workforce Development with Baltimore County, and my territory is the East Side.
I don't know if this is my time to jump in, but I'm Gabby Slocum. I'm the 6th District Outreach Coordinator in the County Executive's Office of Community Engagement.
Hi, Gabby.
Good evening. This is Marta Kutista. I work also for the Department of Planning, and I also Design Review Panel Coordinator.
Good evening. This is Derson Fang. I'm also from the Department of Planning.
Good evening, everybody. It's Doug Anderson from Councilman Crandall's office.
Hey, this is Robin Grammer, State Delegate for District 6 and Company.
Kevin Machana with the Rockaway Beach Improvement Association.
I'm Sandy Marenberg, and I'm here representing the interests of Blue Ocean and the Aviation Station, formerly Middle River Depot.
I'm Sharon Keene. I'm the Executive Director of the Chesapeake Gateway Chamber of Commerce.
And I believe we have Mr. Gontram here. And
I'm an attorney at Whiteford, Taylor & Preston, past president of the Chamber of Commerce, past president of Essex Revitalization. Heaven knows what else.
Welcome.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Craig. I'm a police officer out of the Essex precinct. I do the business patrol initiative.
And I believe we have Mr. D'Amico from the Design Review Panel here as well. So if you haven't introduced yourself, please do so, and then I'll get into the presentation.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Matt D'Amico. I'm on the Design Review Panel in Baltimore County. I'm a senior principal at Design Collective. We are an architecture, planning, urban design, and landscape architecture firm. And I've been asked by the county to volunteer just to provide some sort of professional design input guidance on this. Looking forward to it.
Okay, and I believe we also have Mr. Ramadka here. So hi, good evening. I will get started now. So thank you all for joining us. Our advisory committee is here on the left. So We have a lot of representatives from the community and the county. For tonight, this is going to be a fairly brief meeting. We're going to introduce the panel and discuss design review process, discuss the goals for the stakeholder committee, review online engagement tools, and establish meeting times through winter of 2021. Okay, sorry about that. I had the wrong PowerPoint uploaded.
Ask everyone to make sure they're muted.
Okay, my apologies for that. I will now discuss a little bit of background and go over tonight's agenda. Tonight's meeting should be fairly brief, and this is more of an informational session with a PowerPoint. We'll be diving into details more in the later meetings. So as you know, the Eastern Baltimore County Task Force, headed by Sharon Keene, has been working on making improvements to the Eastern Boulevard streetscape in Essex. Okay, so this work has been an ongoing project and is part of the sustainable community for Essex Middle River. Hold on, I need to get my notes, which are here. I'm sorry, I'm very disorganized right now. I'm pulling those up.
Joe, one quick note, the task force is headed by Sam Weaver and Cliff O'Connell. They are our co-chairs, but I serve as the main staff person working with that group.
Okay, are you seeing the whole screen?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
There seems to be someone typing in the background. Just to make sure that you're muted.
Okay, everyone should mute. Okay. Okay, the task of this group is to develop new guidelines that can both serve as guidelines the task force can utilize and to formalize the design guidelines and have them apply to all development in the Essex Design Review Panel area. The formalized design guidelines that this committee develops will then need to be approved by the County Council. For tonight's meeting, we'll be discussing the goals of the committee and how we plan to proceed. As far as the committee goes, we've received many RSVPs and others could not make it. If you know of anyone that you think could be on the committee that should be, it may be because they didn't RSVP or they were not invited. Please let me know if there is anyone that I'm missing that should definitely be on the committee so we can make sure they have the opportunity to join us for the next meetings. In addition to the community members listed here, we also have a variety of county staff, including members of the county executive team, design review panel, state delegate Robin Grammer, and representatives from Councilman Crandall's office. As mentioned, the Essex area was designated as a state sustainable community area in 2018. This has opened up funding resources that enhance already built out parts of Maryland in an attempt to concentrate growth and investment in these areas preferentially and preserve natural resources in more rural parts of the state. The partnering organization for this program is Essex. In Essex is the Eastern Baltimore County Task Force, and the county has worked closely with them in their efforts. The Sustainable Community Designation opens up funding resources to address the themes addressed in this slide, including things like transportation, the economy, and environment. As part of the application for the designation, the county and community developed an action plan highlighting initiatives to pursue in Essex. many of which the Eastern Baltimore County Task Force is already working on. The design guidelines we formulate as part of this committee will assist the task force in their efforts and will serve to assist Baltimore County achieve better overall design standards along the corridor through the development review process. Other programs offered as part of the sustainable community designation aid in things like adding bikeways, sidewalk retrofitting, and strategic demolition. These programs are for the broader Essex and Middle River area and are not specific to just Eastern Boulevard. This map shows the current extent of the sustainable community area. It was recently expanded to include the Martin State Airport area and more of Middle River to include Aviation Station, which is on the eastern edge of that map. And finally, the specific content that is, at least in part, leading to this initiative are the strategies outlined in the Sustainable Community Designation, which include A, developing a comprehensive streetscape plan for Eastern Boulevard, and B, identifying a commercial node for that, for what could be a priority for state and county revitalization programs. These incentives have gone to at least 14 business. We also have the commercial revitalization districts in the county. These incentives have gone to at least 14 businesses in Essex according to our rates database. 10 of these have been for the commercial revitalization tax credits and 4 have been for architect on call. There is another that has recently applied for the architect on call program. So all of these are kind of locating these incentives in the downtown commercial core of Essex. You'll see here that the commercial revitalization district is rather broad. It encompasses a large section of Eastern Boulevard from the Back River Neck Bridge to the Middlesex Shopping Center, and then farther east and farther south along Back River Neck Road. Okay, now to the design review panel areas. The design review panel was established as part of the Baltimore County Code. The goal of the DRP is to encourage design excellence through the application of design guidelines contained in the master plan. The DRP's general charge is to assess the overall quality of a project. The DRP acts in technical consulting capacity. Its recommendations go to the hearing officer and county agencies. Throughout the county, we have design review panel areas, and you'll see that Essex is just a small portion of that there in the eastern sector. And here we zoom in and we notice that the design review panel area encompasses a portion of the commercial revitalization district, but not all of it. There exist current guidelines in Essex that have been in place since 1983 for commercial facades. These are fairly outdated, and the task here for this group is to update them. The guidelines have various elements, including methods and materials, facade elements, signs, colors, improvement strategies. As part of this task force, we will be going through these guidelines specifically and seeing what to retain and what not to retain, and we'll be going from there. In addition to that, there's the UDAT study that took place back in 2006, which provided a number of urban design and streetscape recommendations. In that study, it stated that any community that can have 2 or 3 good blocks of downtown development has a true town center. Essex clearly meets this criteria in the 400 and 500 blocks of Eastern Boulevard. These blocks have a good stock of buildings, which are at the pedestrian scale and for the most part open into this sidewalk with glass storefronts. These areas present good bones on which to hang new development and redevelopment. street-level establishments should feature more transparent facades, enlivening the sidewalk by letting people see into the shops. Also, creating sidewalk activity with cafes and outdoor seating would be inviting. So there's a small focus on the facades of buildings in the UDAT study, although it is not a focus. It's more, the UDAT's more of a general focus on Essex. So the purpose of the design review panel, which would be reviewing the guidelines that we develop as part of this process, is to encourage design excellence, help establish a common understanding of design principles and standards, and help achieve the desired character for an area. Oh, excuse me. They have monthly meetings when they meet, and they review projects on an ongoing basis. So any development that comes in through a zoning petition or other means would go to the design review panel. This includes new commercial developments, rehabilitation of vacant or dilapidated commercial properties, and additions to commercial buildings. So the overall role of the committee, as was mentioned, is to provide outreach to the community, communicate community interests and goals, and work with county and outside experts to run ideas off of one another. This is the kickoff meeting. We'll be having at least 3 other meetings through the end of February, early March, and we will be reviewing the document that I briefly showed in one of the previous slides of the Essex Design Guidelines, and I will be sharing that link. Thank you, Sharon, for sharing that. I will also send out information with the link to the UDAT study that we can all take a look at. But most importantly, it's the original design guidelines that we will be providing an update to, whether or not it may be, a full redo of them, or it may be just kind of an enhancement to modernize the document. Themes for discussion tonight include, and we're not going to get into all of this, but these are just things to think about for the meetings to follow, are what makes Essex unique, facade improvements that enhance the streetscape and walking experience, focal points or nodes that we may want to focus on, recreation and leisure, which is a theme in the Essex area with the waterfront. We also may want to look at tonight, I think, whether or not we may want to expand the existing DRP boundary to include all of the commercial revitalization district, or whether we want to keep it the same. So these are just all things to ponder. We can come back to them as this committee progresses. Okay, and please feel free to contact me with any questions. I know this PowerPoint was a little chaotic, so I'm sure there are going to be many questions, but we can begin the discussion with the themes mentioned here. And I don't know, Sharon, if you are interested in giving a little background on the Baltimore County Task Force, that may help the committee members kind of get more on board of what we're attempting to do here in terms of changing these design guidelines. So I will end that presentation, and we can go to Sharon if you have any updates.
Sure. The Eastern Baltimore County Task Force began a few years ago. We started meeting in the chamber office, and Cliff really started to get that rolling because of his concerns about the blight in Essex. And we met here at the chamber office, and eventually the task force was formed. as you know, Cliff O'Connell and Sam Weaver, you know, they're both very active in the community, and we're great people to head up this task force. So it basically is a committee of the Chesapeake Gateway Chamber of Commerce, and we started out trying to deal with some of the blight, with looking to work with code enforcement and the county and the state to eliminate things, you know, like graffiti and overgrowth and trash, and deal with the rat issues and whatnot, and pretty much have moved also into more of a beautification with new lampposts and provided by the county, and banners and planters and flowers and things to do that. And now this has come up, and this really has to deal with the storefronts and the vacancies that are there along Eastern Boulevard, and trying to entice new businesses to come to the area through all of these activities. And while we continue to deal with the issues in the first part and keep the beautification projects going, we do have funding from the state of Maryland for a facade improvement program through a grant, a community legacy grant there. And so over the next year, we are looking to identify businesses that can take advantage of that for improving the look of their business. And when we got into this, we realized that that these guidelines had been written so many years ago that, you know, there may be a lot that has changed, and there may be some things in the current documents that still stand true for us. But it was important to take another look at it. And so we met with the county, and so while the Department of Planning is taking a look at these guidelines, we also are developing guidelines as to what we want to see in applications for this grant funding. And I should mention that pretty much any of the projects that we have accomplished over the last few years have been funded through Baltimore County, the CRAG funding, the Commercial Revitalization Action Grant, community legacy funding through the state of Maryland, and also an operational assistance grant. So we've been very fortunate to have the support of both the county and the state in trying to accomplish what we are, which is basically to revitalize this area. And it's so important at this time because this area is right in the middle of all of the new development that's taking place, both down at Trade Point Atlantic and Greenlee in Middle River, as well as Sandy can tell you, what they have planned for the depot property and turning it into aviation station. And we don't want Essex to be left behind. And everybody that we have had there has said what good bones we have in Essex and how we really have some opportunities, and it really is in much better shape than a lot of the areas that in other parts of the state of Maryland. And so we really are excited about what's taking place and what we hope will continue to happen there. And we hope that the community is starting to see those changes. And, the goal is to develop pride in the area and to bring new people to the area, both businesses and people who want to live here. Does that answer your question, Joe, or you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, thank you. No, I think that sums it up really well. I appreciate that clarification. I think that probably helps everyone here.
Now, John Gontram has been involved in this process a lot longer than this task force, because he was involved with the UDAT and all of this when it started many, many years ago. John, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think we're fine, Sharon.
Okay, so one of the first questions that we need to discuss tonight, and I think this will be the only question we get into tonight, is whether or not the current boundaries of the DRP area, the design review panel area, should remain as they are, or whether they should coincide with the commercial revitalization district in its entirety. So I don't know how we want to get that conversation going, or if there are strong opinions.
If I could chime in
Can you
on that.
repeat that question, Joe?
Yes, we need to decide whether or not we are going to retain the existing design review panel area as it is, which is this map here, and it includes the main commercial strip along Eastern Boulevard between the Back River Bridge and Southeast Boulevard, or whether or not it should include more of the area of the commercial revitalization district. So in a lot of the other areas of the county, these maps line up perfectly, but in this instance, the design review panel area does not perfectly coincide with the commercial revitalization district.
Thank you.
And I think that was done probably for a reason that maybe someone on this panel can speak to. Oh, I need to expand the view. Sorry.
If I could chime in just as a community perspective for a minute. I guess it would be beneficial to see that design review panel expanded to encompass that Back River Neck Road corridor, just because that corridor really could use some sort of consistency and uniformity in how properties are developed, how things are done, and the standards that are applied when looking at development applications, zoning petitions, and things of that nature. And if you're to tie that in with the remaining commercial district up in Essex along the boulevard, I think it delivers a much more cohesive and unified look for the Essex area as a whole.
Hey, Joe, it looks to me like if you leave out the right-hand side, the northeast side of what was added on for commercial revitalization, it seems like the design review panel is just neglected.
Any other thoughts from anyone else on this? So it sounds like two votes for expanding it.
Yeah, Joe, one thing I would notice, when the UDAT looked at this, the UDAT originally was just looking at the center of Essex. That was supposed to be what they were really after. But when they got into it, we did tours of what was then Kingsley Park and went down Back River Neck Road. And they sort of looked at that and said, this ought to be folded in. And I know in looking at the revitalization district, you've got some of the older developments, you've got some open space there as well. But it looks to me like it would make some sense to link these up and have some sort of consistent review for this development, because virtually all the development that you have there is 1950s or earlier so far as its generation. And I think that could be some refreshing, or at least a new look when you're trying to tie it all together.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gontram. And in the next meeting, which we need to discuss when that exactly will be, we will be doing a virtual tour of the area, and I think that'll give us a better opportunity to kind of get to know the area. Obviously, we all know the area well, probably you all better than me, but that will give us a good opportunity to go through and see the existing conditions of these areas. So we'll have aerial imagery that we'll be looking at. We were lucky enough to get drone footage from Baltimore County over Eastern Boulevard. So we'll be looking at that, and also pictures along Back River Neck Road. So that should really help us, I think. And are there any other comments on this one question that we're talking about right now?
Joe, do you think Marta or Matt, representing the DRP, have any thoughts on the project boundary?
Sure, Lori. This is Matt. I think I sort of concur with what everyone has said. There seems to be a lot of really good reasons for including all of it in the DRP. Another point I can think of is if there is going to be funding and resources and public investment that are put in these areas, it only seems fair for all of it to be reviewed, not just one portion of it. So right now, there could be some funding and resources go into areas that would not be required to be reviewed. I would think for the businesses and for the residents and people who live here, that would make sense for there to be that consistency.
Thank you.
Are there any downsides potentially to expanding it? And I don't know if there are. I just want to throw that out there. I don't know what they would be. Can anyone think of any?
I don't know if it's a downside or not, but correct me if I'm wrong, Sharon, but your facade improvement grant money that you receive from the state has to be focused in the blocks that you identified in your application, correct?
Yes, it does. But, you know, as far as the state money for the community legacy, while we are initially focused on the main business corridor there along Eastern Boulevard, we can pretty much select projects from anywhere in the sustainable community, which encompasses significantly more than we're discussing on either of these two maps.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Joe, this is Robin. Can I chime in real quick?
Absolutely. Hi, Robin.
I think revitalizing all these areas is a great idea and is necessary. I just have I have a question in the back of my mind. I know every one of these areas by heart. I've talked to a lot of people about the old plan that never got any traction, you know, back in the day. And there was a lot of opinions about that and why it didn't come to fruition. And I don't know the exact answer to that. But when you look at the scope of what we're talking about here, I mean, it's the whole Essex proper commercial space. It's all of Back River. It's the Al Seafood Corridor and the Hawthorne commercial space. I'd love to see that all come to fruition, but I come from a computer science background, and I'm inclined to think, like, what's the order of operation? You know, what are we doing? How do we get that done? What are our first steps? And I mean, what are we trying to do here? And with that said, if we get it all done and it's perfect, great. But I guess I would just want to start small and see the plan start to get rolling before I could go to people in my district and say, yeah, we're just going to revitalize every bit of commercial space. You know what I mean? I hope I'm voicing my concern there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
If I could address that a little bit, that is the exact feeling that the task force has had, Robin, in that, you know, this is an elephant. We only want to take one bite each at a time. And so a lot of our efforts have been focused thus far on like the 2 to 800 blocks of Eastern Boulevard. And I think there's still a lot more that needs to be done in that area. and we will continue to focus on that area initially. But this will lay the groundwork to enable us to move out into these other areas as we see improvement in the main business order.
And I think that's great. And I think I actually had a meeting with some of the development folks that are on the call, and I had a silly idea, and they told me how silly it was, and they kind of educated me like development's all about housing, and we need to do things to change the nature of housing and add some housing and take away some office space. It's that kind of thing. Like I remember several of the plans call for less office space. Well, how do you do that? So the plans called for like less rental properties. Well, how do you do that? And those are some of the bigger concerns. Like if we can't do that, how do you? There's a lot of businesses. If we just start throwing up facades, I don't think that's going to necessarily get the dominoes rolling. And it's those bigger development questions that I think I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I guess in response to that, the task of this committee isn't, I guess, won't be focused on that specifically. This is really more just developing the facade guidelines for the DRP area. It will focus less on major revitalization issues.
I think we are looking to get more folks like Blue Ocean and those from the Greenlee development, those from Trade Point Atlantic, to talk to us about good development and what that means for commercial, as well as some commercial leasing groups. And we've already met with Sandy and his team, and I've had a few initial conversations with Somerset Construction about that. But I think they know a lot better than we do as volunteers what does make up good construction there and good some ideal ways to try and bring business to the area and what type of business that should be and the proper steps for accomplishing it. And whether that's people first and business second or business first and people second, I don't know that everybody agrees on that.
Hi, this is Sandy. Just picking up on what was being said by Sharon. Facade regulations in regard to the DRP review is a good start because it gives you a quality on the street and a quality of design that should improve what follows. Now, it doesn't create economic viability to build apartment buildings or large subdivisions, but it's a good place to start. And then the economics of the community will then guide what development types follow. As we all read in the paper or online, housing is in short supply, and house prices are going up because of supply and demand. That's not always the case, but it is today. Based on what's happened in the pandemic, office space may not be in demand because offices won't be growing right away. And hotel rooms and things of that nature are all affected. So that's probably beyond what we can handle right now. I think we ought to focus on what we can handle. And I think it's going to be the task of other groups and developers to pick up on this and take it to the next level. But I'm certainly open to further discussion.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Okay, I think we need to discuss when our next meeting will be. And before that, I will, once this meeting concludes, I will send out the links for the existing design guidelines for Essex, so we can all be on the same page for that for the next meeting. And also I will send out the UDAT study that gets into some design elements. So for the next meeting, we were thinking about doing it on a Tuesday again, perhaps in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that would be the 15th of December or the 22nd of December. I know the 22nd is getting close to the holidays, so that may not be the best, but the 15th is what we were looking at. And at that time, we would be discussing in detail existing conditions along Eastern Boulevard and Back River Neck Road, and also getting into the existing design guidelines. So with that said, if there's anyone that has a strong preference for either of those dates, please chime in so we can do our best to schedule these meetings around the time that works for everyone.
I'm good on the 15th. I'm not sure I'm good on the 22nd.
It looks like we have some comment for the 15th.
The 15th is good for me as well. Are you looking at an evening meeting again, Joe?
Yeah, it'll be, all the meetings should be at 6 p.m. I think that's usually an okay time for people. We can move that around too if we need to. Okay, it looks like the 15th is definitely the preference. And I will also make a request, I guess. We are looking for some more business participation along Eastern Boulevard. So I've gotten a few suggestions, but I haven't actually received any RSVPs from the ones that I sent out. So if there's anyone else that anyone knows of that may want to join this committee in the next few months, then we would love to have them.
I left messages for Earl Oxley and Shirley Cox, but have not heard from them.
I can follow up with Shirley Cox if you would like.
If they are not interested, perhaps they can make a recommendation of a couple of business owners or property owners that might be. Okay. So just a quick question for you. It's my understanding that you have already gone through this process with another community in Baltimore County. I was wondering if we might be able to also get a link to the new version, since you may, I'm sure you learned something from pulling that one together, from the new version for that community, that we could take a look at it.
Yes, we are. Actually, we're in the process right now of updating design guidelines in some other locations. I don't know what I don't know if we have that document.
We don't. They're just really starting in the process.
Okay.
So we don't. It's Liberty Road, and they actually don't have a DRP area at all, and they're working to establish that and to get guidelines. So we're just in the very beginning stages of that. So unfortunately, I don't have anything to share from that one. But if there's something you have in mind that you want to look at, or you've come across you have some idea, if you let us know, I mean, we may have something that relates. Matt, who's here from the DRP, through some of his work, in the region, may have something that would be worth looking at. We can get something for you if you're looking for another example.
That would be great. I was just looking for something from Baltimore County, but it does sound like you're still in the beginning processes there. I think I sent to Joe a number of different facade examples that I had collected from all over the place. Aberdeen was one, and Ocean City was another, and just a couple of other ones that if anybody wants to see those examples, I'm sure I could forward that email with the links to folks. But it's good just to have some ideas of what others have recommended, whether they're strict or whether they're fairly, vague and lenient, just looking to give some people guidelines. And I guess that would lead to one other question. It looks to me like the old design guidelines were written just as guidelines, but not necessarily as requirements that people had to fulfill before they could move forward with the project. Is that the intent of this document as we review it going forward as well?
Yes, that's my understanding, that this would serve as guidance, would not be required. The DRP, their recommendations are not binding, but they're strong recommendations.
Thank you.
Would you have a chance to reach out to Luis Contreras?
Yes, I believe I sent him an email.
Okay, no follow-up yet? I can call him if that helps and see maybe he'd be willing to.
That'd be great, yeah.
Okay. Will do.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Again, going back to Sharon's comment, Sharon, we work with the DRP in Pikesville, where there are guidelines that are recommendations, guidelines, and then the DRP helps us implement them. And quite frankly, our project that we're working on now, taking through the DRP in phases, has been significantly improved by going through the DRP process as guidelines. Because we can't always do what is suggested. Sometimes you just can't. You have uniqueness of your site. But to get the same effect, the DRP can suggest other ways to accomplish that. So I think it's important to keep them as guidelines, since no two properties are identical. But I would like to hear what Matt has to say on that.
I mean, right now it's hard for me to say, whether they should be guidelines or requirements or have some combination. I think it's going to be up to this group to make that determination. It's hard to say right now. In the end, having them just as guidelines might be the perfectly right thing to do. We'll see. We'll see what everybody wants and what everybody supports. I was going to add a couple of things, and I think what Sharon offered was, sharing some of her examples, things she likes. I would encourage everyone to do that. I would also encourage everyone to take a look at the guidelines. They're 40 years old. There might be some things in there that work. There might be some things that don't work anymore. I think remember, too, revitalizing a commercial district isn't just about facades. So some of this might be facade improvements. Some of it may be new buildings entirely. What should that architecture look like? It's not just buildings. It's the character of the street. It's the streetscape. It's the sidewalk. It's street trees. It's the furniture. It's the kind of place you're creating that has that sort of sense of being, inviting and sociable. And whether somebody asks a question, is it people first and businesses follow, or is it vice versa of that? We don't know. But what I do know, great places that feel comfortable and welcoming and of high quality are going to be the places that attract investment and positive change you're looking for. So I would encourage folks think about all of those things. Think about the kind of the character you're looking for, the character of the street and the streetscape and the amenities and the people and the lampposts and trees and facades and outdoor dining and all of open space, plazas, places for people to mingle and get together. Think about all of that and come to the next meeting with some thoughts and input. If you have examples you want to share from places you've been, great. If you want to just talk about it, that's fine too. The other thing I would encourage is what is it about Essex that is great? Is there anything about it, about any existing buildings or its history or its culture or something that you could build something around? It's always great to look to Pikesville or Ocean City or other places, but if there's something unique about Essex, maybe there's a way to build some guidelines that are more authentic to Essex. I look forward to providing my input and my support and my help, but you all on this call are the experts. You live there. You have been there forever. As Robin said, he knows every nook and cranny, every space. So come to the next meeting with enthusiasm to share all that. I don't think it's all going to be an important part of how these guidelines are shaped and work, and like I said, how they work uniquely for Essex.
And this is Marta Kuchetska. I would like to echo Matt. If you could, especially for people who live in the community, to think about any interesting stories. Sometimes design not just about look, it's about stories that could be weaved into the community. So if you can share something that maybe you just only know about the community, and also green infrastructure is a very important part of any development. If you can share any ideas on how to incorporate green infrastructure into the assets, that would be also helpful. But again, we're open here to hear from you and from the communities, and together we can make, I believe, strong decisions on about design guidelines.
Hey, Joe, these are great suggestions. I'm going to forget them immediately once I'm off this call. Could maybe we collect these and send them out to everybody?
Yeah, I'll write up the meeting minutes and we'll send that out. In addition to what we've discussed tonight, we will be creating a hub where all this information will be stored on the Baltimore County website. So we'll have that we can turn to. That should be up in the next few days. We'll also be having a survey that we're going to pass out to the community that you can do online. But the hub will be the main source where we can store all this information. And I will follow up in an email tomorrow with all the reports that we discussed tonight. So that includes the Essex Design Guidelines, the UDAT study, as well as some design guidelines for other areas. Does anyone else have anything they want to add before we wrap up this meeting? Okay, well, hearing none, thank you all for attending tonight, and I'm sorry for the difficulties to begin with. The next meeting will go smoother, and I appreciate all your attendance.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks very much.
Good job.
It's a good group. Thanks, Joe.
All right.